The message discipline is interesting and important here because they've called it the Hate America rally. You're going to see Antifa. You and I have discussed this. Antifa, an organization that isn't really pro-Hamas, and Marxists. This is combining all the worst parts of McCarthyism and the Red Scare all into one to make people who are actually out there going to protest for their rights and the preservation of democracy somehow seem evil.
Yeah, and this is what authoritarians of all kinds always do. They try to take the people who are at the exact middle of a liberation movement and describe them as being outsiders, aliens, full of hate. It's a despicable tactic because it's mendacious, and it's a despicable tactic because it's provocative, but it's also a sign of weakness when they can't even say the name of the protest movement because they're so afraid of it. That's not a sign of strength.
Yeah, which is good because sometimes people say that Democrats don't really have messaging discipline. No King's pretty good because you really don't want to be on the wrong side of that particular issue, except, Tim, Donald Trump's acting like a king, right? The reason we say no kings is because we believe in accountability. And what Donald Trump is doing with the courts, with the media, with the military, literally at the Pentagon, with having people sign that they'll only report things officially given to them, that's the opposite of accountability.
Yeah, I want to stress before I answer that the No Kings protests and the Democrats are not the same thing. There will be plenty of people at the No Kings protests who are not Democrats.
Good point.
There will be plenty of people who think of themselves in other ways as being more to the left, more to the right, as being independents. As the crucial thing is, as you say, it's up or down on our republic. Right? Saying no kings is saying yes to a republic. It's saying yes to democracy. It's saying yes to freedom. And when we have all those things, then we can decide amongst ourselves about particular policy questions. But what comes first is up or down on our democracy, up or down on our republic.
Yeah, you make a really interesting point because I was just talking to Jen Psaki, who was talking to Greg Casar, who was saying that there amongst Democrats, for instance, there shouldn't be a litmus test about where you are. The point here is that this is about up or down on democracy. You can fight later about your positions on health care and minimum wage and whatever else subsidies you want to talk about, but right now it's up or down on democracy. Is that clear enough to people across the political spectrum?
I mean, if you want good things to happen in the future, you have to have a democracy. If we let the democracy go, if we drift towards this kind of social media oligarchy where only a few political clans have power, then you can forget about all the things that progressives rightly want, but Americans also want, whether they think of themselves as progressive or not.
Right.
Because you're not going to have a functioning government. You're not going to have disease control. You're not going to have health insurance. You're not going to have Social Security unless you have democracy. Those are all things you only get with democracy. I mean, the way I see it, Ali, is something like this, that the movement of No Kings, or a pro-democratic movement, is there to show what's possible. It's a different form of communication than a political party. It can help a political party move along. It can drag a political party along. It's not about so much litmus tests of what's negative. It's about the positive possibility of building a big coalition.
What a great way to put it. And because of what you said about these things, organizing taking work, I'm going to ask you to just stand by for a second and listen to this conversation. I want to bring in Dan Kasson. He's a former engineer who's now a co-leader of the Waukesha County East chapter of Indivisible in Wisconsin. And he's a member of the No Kings Milwaukee Coalition. And I think, Dan, you're the guy Tim Snyder's talking about when he says this takes work, right? If millions of people show up, as I expect they will, across the country on Saturday, it will be because people are organizing around this idea of democracy and freedom and justice.
You're right. It takes a lot of work. It's become almost a full-time job for me, very honestly. But it's a badge of honor to hear what Mike Johnson is saying about No Kings, that we're actually the one that's putting the stopping the gears on the whole problem we've been having with the shutdown, not staying where it is at this point, because we're really pushing to engage and really take a nonpartisan action to really really get a larger coalition of people, as Dr. Schneider's saying, and make this happen.
Talk to me about you, because the thing about No Kings and Indivisible is that it may be some people's almost full-time jobs right now, but you weren't all professionals at this. You are people who came about this from other walks of life and said, I have a role to play. Tell me about yours.
Yeah, well, it started years ago when I was working in missionary work down in Central America with both El Salvador and Costa Rica and various groups down there, and really helping support the migrant population down there achieve their goals, and working with them from the United States in a mode of cooperation. And then from there, it's really just taken off to this particular administration's egregious actions, and us just picking up the cloth from there and working with Indivisible. Currently, we have in our group a pillar called Migrant Ministry, where we are continuing with the same kind of idea and working to push back on the pillars of authoritarianism with the religious pillar. So we're trying to shake that pillar and make people realize that they need to speak up, and now is the time.
Do you think that the brutality that we've been watching with respect to migrants and undocumented immigrants in this country is moving some people to say, I might think we should have stronger immigration policy. I didn't sign up for this.
You're absolutely right. I'm also involved in another coalition out in our neighbor Jefferson County with ICE currently attempting to enforce a 287G task force model on the police department there with incentives. So we're fighting that and developing coalitions for that as well too, to fight back in a very predictable manner to get village board people interested and push back on the agreements that a police department chief can make. So we're working at all angles on this.
Working at all angles is how this is going to change. Dan, thanks very much for what you're doing. Thank you for joining us as well tonight. Tim Snyder, I thought it was important to talk to Dan because Dan's what you're talking about. You talked about all the time. You tell me that sometimes it's 10 or 30 people gathering at a bridge to protest, and on Saturday it may be millions, but all of it matters.
Yeah. And if it's millions, it's because there are thousands of people like Dan. I mean, what the Speaker of the House is trying to tell us is there's some incredible invisible conspiracy. There's some invisible black hand behind all of this. And that's not the way it works. If millions of people come out, it's because thousands of individuals are organizing, and there are hundreds of different groups involved.
Yep.
No Kings is not itself a thing. No Kings is a broad organizing umbrella of hundreds of different civil society groups all around the country who are cooperating with one another to make these things happen. And it's that cooperation, right? The numbers of individuals is important, but it's also important that people from different groups cooperate with one another to do something positive like this, because that's the way democracy is actually supposed to work. The people, we're all individuals, we're all different, we have different ideas and interests, but we work together horizontally to build coalitions. And in that way, we can imagine we can halt bad things now, but we can also talk to each other and imagine a better future.
Tim, great to see you. Thank you, as always. Tim Snyder, professor at the University of Toronto.